I'm going to introduce quickly our speakers, and I'll say a little bit more about each of them before they do their individual presentations. But we're going to hear first of all from Abigail from, I'm sure you'll hear it right in a minute, from Am Pàipear. And then we're going to hear from Shona at Ceòlas. Oh, we're getting there. From Chris at Tagsa Uist. And unfortunately, Alana's had to give apologies this morning for family reasons, but she was going to be speaking about Uist Beò. But I'm really delighted that we've got some videos and podcasts that she's sent over for us so that we can still showcase that work as well. And then last but not least, we're going to be hearing from Thomas. So I've been doing quite a bit of work with Thomas. He's helped us a lot to get this session together as well. But we spoke quite a lot when talking about the Social Enterprise Places concept, very much about ambition for the future as much as what's happening now. And I think Thomas is going to kind of share with us some thoughts about those future ambitions as well, as we draw the speaking part of our session to a close. So enough from me. I'm going to hand straight over to Abigail. Really delighted, and thank you for joining us. Over to you.
Thank you very much for having me here today. I am a digital journalist with Am Pàipear, and Am Pàipear is part of one of the oldest social enterprises in Uist, founded in 1976. Over the years, it's changed and adapted many times. But since the launch of the website and digital subscription service, Am Pàipear is leading the way in local news digitally. I joined Am Pàipear in January 2021 to assist Ian Stephen, the editor, in his plans to launch a Netflix meets Economist style news service, which offers a digital first model of news. Ian Stephen had planned throughout 2020 to launch this service as a way to support the paper if things were to go wrong during the pandemic. With this service, you can access the paper digitally, normally before the paper arrives in shops, read online exclusive content, and soon we're going to have video content up and running as well. As well as this, the package has allowed readers to also listen. Am Podcast was launched in March 2021 as another extra for when you subscribe online. The podcast has featured many social enterprises from across the islands, including Tagsa and Thomas from CoDel, but it also has a news and current affairs feel to it from local, national, and an international outlook. Our service is there to inform, entertain, and to hold those in power to account. This was evident when I undertook a project in October to interview dozens of women from across Uist in the run-up to the local elections in May this coming year. Having moved to the islands at the beginning of 2021, it did not take me long to realise that on the ground, women run this place. Between them all running businesses, working as managers, acting as leaders, the women that live here are determined and hardworking. I've produced articles that profile young women who were juggling a family, a craft, a full-time job, and I met others through conversation about the organisations they run and events that they were planning to run. It was therefore a shock to find out that the Comhairle is the only council without female representation in Scotland. I had met so many women who, in my opinion, would be perfect for that job. So many people who have met with me during my time here have spoken highly of the Hebridean businesswoman. I struggled to see how the headline that described Scotland's only male council came to be. I set out at the beginning of this process to understand the reasons for the makeup of our council, to explore the thought processes of the women here in order to uncover stopping them from becoming decision makers in their own communities. I asked what are the most important matters for them, and time again, issues that came up were childcare, transport, education, healthcare, and equal access to services for across the islands. In 2017, no women were elected, so therefore the Western Isles was the only local authority in Scotland to have no female representation. Through this work, I found that many women here are running or managing charities, businesses, and social enterprises. Quorum, Ceòlas, Uist Beò, UU, the list goes on. So as well as these barriers, such as travel and distance from Stornoway, time, pay, some felt that they were making a greater impact on their community through the work that they were already doing here on the ground. In order to be a good representative, you must bring perspective and a different life experience to the job, and that doesn't just stop at gender. It is clear there is a gap in the age range of our councillors, and in order for that to change, reform is needed to create an incentive for younger generation to step up to the mark. Following the publication of this project, the Comhairle has worked with Elect Her, an organisation that encourages women to seek election. They hosted an online workshop last night, actually, to encourage more women in the Western Isles to just go for it in May. Working as a journalist for a social enterprise is a great positive, as we're an independent paper. There's no one else setting the agenda for Am Pàipear apart from ourselves in order to best serve our community. Through my work over this past year, it's clear to see why Uist was awarded the Social Enterprise Place Award, as there are so many thriving across these islands. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abigail. I think community newspapers really, I mean, they can be really powerful tools and voices, I think, and it's interesting. I think those of us who are interested as well in leadership, I think I've been following the council story that you mentioned and have picked up, I think there were quite a few women had come forward for the event from bits I was reading online, or there was a lot of work being now done to encourage women to stand for council. So I think it'd be really exciting to see what's next. Maybe it will go all female next time round. Who knows? Who knows? I also just wanted to say, because you didn't say this introducing yourself, but actually having been sent your biog, I think it's really important that we really big up people's experience and what's coming to the islands, because actually some of the work that you're doing really is leading the way. You know, as you said, you've won Community Newspaper of the Year before, but I think personally you've just been shortlisted for Young Journalist of the Year, and we're looking forward to those announcements, I think, on the 4th of February. So I know there's lots of people nodding their head here, but it would be brilliant, and I think not just for yourself, but I think for a community like Uist as well, to have that Young Journalist Prize coming from the islands. Again, I reflect back when we were speaking, we said there was so much we can learn from island communities, and often it feels, I live in a not remote community in the sense of Uist, but I'm down in Dumfries and Galloway, and sometimes it feels like decisions are made and then we all follow, and they're made in central Scotland and then we all follow. And I think it's brilliant to see the islands really leading. So we're all crossing our fingers for you on the 4th of February, and it's brilliant that you have that background and experience and are really pushing things forward. So thank you very much for sharing everything about Am Pàipear with us today.
Thank you very much.
I won't get it by the end, but I'll keep trying. So we're going to move on now to hear from Shona. She's going to tell you all about CoDel. I know they do lots of work promoting actually Gaelic and traditional culture. So she's already encouraging me to sign up for their online classes, which I think I probably should do. So I'm delighted to welcome Shona to the session. So as Gaelic Education Officer, I think you're for one of Uist's largest social enterprises. You've been involved, I think, I'm reading your biog now, you were been involved in traditional music from a young age, including piano and fiddle. I'm sat here looking at my piano in the background thinking, oh crikey, a great pianist as well. I'm not. So I'm really delighted that you're able to join us. And, you know, again, you're bringing, I think, a sense of what I'm picking up from all of the biogs is a sense of having had to leave the island to go away and get skills and training, but also coming back in terms of then supporting the communities that you all love, and that really comes through. So over to you, Shona.
Happily, Naomi. Hello, Dinja. It's great to be here with you today. And I'm going to speak bilingually. Hopefully that doesn't mean it's going to be twice as long. So bring me back on a Gaelic, and I'll do some in English as well. So Didachar an Isha gave the Guinness Sabine Hiljaldagarn, Bicaulas agamas age canon agus culture na Gaelic vrasnachich, Gehinnatal and the Uist, Ganashanta agus Gehiternashanta. So as Naomi said, Ceòlas is a charitable group that aims to promote Gaelic language and culture locally, nationally and internationally. Ha Gaelic na first vód yananata show. Gaelic is such an important part of Uist. It's part of the place and the people, the way of life. it's part of the work, from crafting and fishing to health and teaching. And it's also a huge part of our culture, the music, song and dance. And that's why it's also so important for Gaelic to have been recognised as a priority within the group here, and we really welcome that. So Bishine go per leis a chéirs nach céin, agus bishine cur tachars san ar dá cuideach dachuid de gúine ha fiideach an Uist, ach cuideach de gúine hi go hálarne, agus bishin go mór a brasnach dúine I héana Uist I géichcin sa Am Pàipear as na ha tachars dan I we work with the community here in Uist and also organise events and projects for those who are here, but also very much to help to bring people to Uist. So whether that's for the summer school, for our symposium, immersion courses throughout the year or other events, we very much want to encourage people to come and be here and also kind of access their own culture. Ha sé bliana bhór a ha seo gunne ha cnach saidir an dúcalach úracin go bhí fostlaigh. Bí sin na chéim bhór ar sean canan is cúltair an Uist. Díadach bheith áte úr séisfach a bhí ein I hí dúine agus go féich dúine go bhfuil an dúcalach grín úr seo ein an Uist. Ha cútrimach einach a cúideach go raibh cóbracha go masáiríte ha sin étar sin hín étar Ceòlas agus colas sé chaistil UHI ha sin a talíte bhí go per cána dua agus ha sin dachas go féich an céirsnach agus na dúine hi go hálarn na buanach in a hícliise sin. This year marks really quite an important and special year for Ceòlas as we'll see the opening of Cnachsynir, the new building in Dalipra there, which is a partnership with Lewis Castle College, UHI, and that's going to be a huge leap forward for Gaelic language and culture, kind of making it a new permanent home, a really obvious place that people will see that they can come and access Gaelic language and culture. And we really hope that the community here and all the visitors will see the benefits that will come from that. I think this is going to end up being twice as long. Sorry, I'm going to see if I can cut down anything. It is important, I think, for good jobs and good Gaelic jobs to also be based in the Gaelic strongholds, which the Uist is. Ceòlas has brought people home or into Uist, myself included, to undertake Gaelic employment or arts employment, and we also give opportunities for freelancers throughout the year, musicians, tutors, media work as well. So that all contributes to the local economy here, which is another kind of aim of Ceòlas. I think the language development is under the lens at the moment. There's lots of kind of conversations going on around Gaelic and around the local communities, but the language development and the community development are very similar in that the best response is often a local response by the people who know what is needed in that area. And I think social enterprise really kind of brings that together as well. There is a Gaelic saying which I really like, which is Toki Clachan Beka Cairn Mór, which translates as little stones will make a big cairn. And I think that really kind of speaks to social enterprise and the groups across Uist. There's lots of hard work going on. There are high aims here and creating some great things. And Ceòlas and Cnachsynir, Hashinya Uavzach Talíte bhí Cáladh, we're very happy to sit alongside all of these groups. And we also look forward to hopefully welcoming you all warmly to Cnachsynir. So hopefully that gives a wee thing. There is a wee video, but if I've gone over my time, then don't worry.
It's absolutely fine. I will share the video because I think it brings the work that you do to life. So I'll just give me a second and I'll just get it loaded.
Thank you, Naomi.
Thank you. I hope that came through. That I really enjoyed watching that video. It was just full of great music, and I think really gives a sense, I think, of Uist as well, which is really important when we're talking about place. So thank you so much, Shona. Really enjoyed hearing more about your work as well. So thank you very much. I'm going to bring Chris in next to give us a sense of the work that Tagsa Uist are doing. Again, I think, Chris, reading your biog, you've worked actually all over the world, but had very much your roots in Benbecula and have now returned to look after the family crop. So I guess it is that there's definitely a theme of coming back, I think, that I'm really picking up from all of you, and then really wanting to work in that community. So I'm not going to put words in your mouth. I'm going to hand straight over to you, Chris, to really talk about all you're doing with Tagsa Uist and give us a sense of your work. Thank you.
Hi, yeah, I've been back in Uist for a year now. It's actually my second winter, but I was always coming here as a child to this same house where I am now, where my grandparents lived, and it was a house full of Gaelic. So I'm ashamed to say that I don't. And Shona knows that I've done one beginner's class, but I've got a long way to go with Gaelic. But Tagsa Uist means youth support, and I think it's good to remember how we started. So we started about 21 years ago, and it was very much a response to the immediate needs of the community in Lochiport, really, where there was, we have an aging population, we have many elderly people who may live on their own or just in a small group. And they don't have access to transport, and they find it difficult to do very basic things like go shopping. And I think because of the crofting tenure in Uist, houses tend to be quite far apart. They're not clustered in small villages. They're they're situated on the croft. So you do have an issue of people living alone or far away from the few services we have in Uist. So Tagsa Uist started that way, and I think whilst now we're a much bigger organisation, there's still that impulse of wanting to help people around us and it being a community-driven organisation. So I think once you start working with or supporting people in a person-centred way, you realise that there's many other needs that they have or many other aspirations that they have. And I think we, over time, we've kind of developed our services. So we have a large care at home and respite care service, which does about 16,000 hours a year. We have an elderly and dementia support service. We're doing more and more in mental health and well-being. We have our community transport service, and we have our community gardens. And common to all of those is the challenges. And I think one of the things I've picked up from Thomas many times is his positive outlook. And I think we can sometimes look at the challenges around us, and that's kind of coming from a humanitarian background. I tend to look at the negatives, and in Uist you can see there's many challenges. There's challenges of workforce, there's challenges of an aging population, there's challenges of just the sheer distances between places, and the large needs that people have for support as they get older. So, and in addition to that, we also have the climate emergency, which we know is going to threaten the low-lying coastal areas of Uist. So there's lots of challenges, and I think in Tagsa we've tried to just 1 second. We've tried to integrate the various things that we do. So we have a large care at home service, but in that care at home service we have enormous amount of contact with families and elderly people up and down the islands. And that allows us to see, other ways that we can support. So in addition to focusing on our initial focus on elderly people, we're also doing more with young people. And we found that our community gardens is a very good, setting for a lot of other activities. For example, we have a volunteering program, and we have an employability program where we have interns and we have young people coming and learning different skills, whether it's customer service skills, whether it's dealing with the public as they come into the gardens, but also learning about local production of foods and, all of the issues around being in a remote community and how important it is to be self-sufficient and well, not entirely self-sufficient, but to be more resilient as a community. So we've tried to integrate our project. So we have our sensory garden, where we have elderly and people with dementia and other memory problems with memory to come and spend time and to reduce their loneliness, to give them opportunities for social participation. We also have young musicians working with us in our Uist Golden Years Ceilidh Club, which is local musicians, many of whom are actually involved in Ceòlas, hosting a traditional house ceilidh once a month with some of our elderly clients. We're now about to get involved in a new initiative called Neighbour Food, which is trying to promote the production and consumption of food in Uist. So we will be a host site for the producers of different types of food, from vegetables to fish and venison, to be sold to local people through Tagsa, our community gardens. We're also about to be involved in a Uist food map and carbon audit in collaboration with Community Energy Scotland. And we're trying to promote that whole community response to trying to reduce the carbon footprint of food coming into Uist, and having people being more self-sufficient and resilient, and at the same time having opportunities to be together, to reduce loneliness, to be participating in things together. So I think there's a couple of things I would say. One is that the initial impulse to start Tagsa, it's very important to keep that value going, which is that even though we deliver services, which are commissioned by the local authority, we're not just doing a service delivery. We're trying to retain that creative and responsive approach to the community. And as we see there's more and more challenges for young people, we've changed our emphasis and shifted to providing more opportunities for young people as well. Because we try to integrate our projects, our community transport supports the care, supports the gardens, supports the elderly and dementia work. It's very important for our management team to be working as one team. And they're not just working on their own in their own particular areas of work, but they're, trying to solve problems together. And that aspect of our work, we also see very much in the way that we work with other agencies, and interact with them and try to do collaborative work together. And Abigail had mentioned advocacy, and I think that's a very important thing as well for Tagsa, is that whilst it might not be always public advocacy, we're always knocking on the door and pushing the local authority and the Scottish Government along to improve services and to make them aware of some of the challenges that people experience here in Uist. And I think the last thing I would say is that in all of these projects, it's so important to have creativity and enthusiasm, to enjoy it, and to look for new opportunities. And I suppose that's the social entrepreneurial aspect of it, is that we're looking around us and we're looking for new things that we can do, and to enjoy that creativity. So that's us in Tagsa Uist. Thanks very much.
Thank you. What another great example. And I was really interested in the work you're doing around the food map and the carbon footprint, because I think wherever you live, they're becoming more critical issues, actually, I guess it leads on to what I know Thomas will probably cover in some of the stuff around ambitions, but looking to the future. But carbon footprint and understanding all of that is critical in all communities. But I suspect in island communities that awareness and that self-sufficiency becomes all the more important. So really interested to follow that work moving forwards as well, Chris. So thank you very much. We're not going to go into Thomas just yet, because I actually just want to give you the chance to show you the videos that Alana sent through. So I think I said at the start, unfortunately, due to family reasons, Alana had to give last minute apologies, but we didn't want to, neither did she want to kind of not get that sense of the work that's happening. So we've got a short recording in terms of the work that Uist Beò is doing, and I'm just going to share that with you now and just share with you a sense of the podcast that they're creating. So this is very much work around young people's voices, and I guess coming back to that advocacy point and sharing thoughts and views of people. So I won't say any more. I will share the video and let Alana get that across. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the podcast first, because the podcast is good to go, and then while that's playing I can line up the videos. So here goes.
Hello, so South Uist. I am from North Uist. I work in North Uist. No matter where you are, it's always home. Bobby McGoy, he knows wishing to you with unfortunately too. Living was the best thing about moving. I wouldn't even dream about moving back to the city.
For me, the best thing about living in Uist would probably be the community, and that it's a Gaelic speaking community, and the culture and that kind of side of things. But also it's great living on an island and being near the sea and things like that. Yeah, I think they're the best things.
Well, sé námas a hacha manist go mídáis an nuist sé teolach go thugáil seo. Ha mi céirí go bí an nuintir thugáilach go sa bhacham hín, na bham hín óg, agus forstanach sa bhami go rá mi I mo chuirte go le tóir a gúine agus tóir súrsa agus tóir chorman Gaelic is rutan mar sin súna go sin námas is mó a hacha man drásta ciú.
I would quite like to create my own business on the island. In what field I'm not entirely sure, but I've got a bit of management experience behind me. You know, I'm involved in several projects that I take on myself, and you know, there's opportunities all over the place in terms of premises on the island that could be put to better use to benefit not only businesses but you know, consumers as well. So it would do the island economy a load of good to have more small businesses being able to open, and whether it would be a way to make that easier for local people to do or not, I'm not entirely sure, but that would be certainly something that would lead to sustainability and, you know, creating a better future for the islands.
Well, kind of connected to the previous point of the sustainable and secure futures on the island, I think it's safe to say that both of us, as well as many other people, of course, feel like one of the most pressing issues is the housing crisis, because it's preventing young people from being able to stay on the island, especially young people, and if you don't feel secure in your family's ability to stay in a place, then that prevents having any kind of long-term vision for your home. And while this is not, of course, it's not an issue.
The smart ones amongst you will have known that the podcast was 8 minutes, so I wasn't going to give you a sense of the full time. I just wanted to give you a sense. This is about really sharing voices, and I'm just going to prepare this video, and we can hear directly then from Alana.
Hallo, is me Alana MacInnes. I am natuurlijk nach uring over CoDel video. I hope you're all well, and apologies for not being able to be with you. I thought I would let you know about some of the things that I've been working on with CoDel over the last year. We have our new platform, which we're hoping, the prototype even for the new platform that we have called Uist Beò, and also the Young Uist Voices podcast series are the two things I'm going to mention. So for Uist Beò, we wanted to create something that showed all the various different businesses and people and things that are happening in Uist all in one place, so that it could be seen how busy and how vibrant life can be for those who are at home and who are working and living there and doing interesting things. So we wanted to tell stories of people who are there. So there's 8 features up there at the moment, and hopefully we'll expand on those. There's also a map there, so you can see everything that's going on all in one place, because it might often, you might overlook something, or it might often not be so obvious of some of the things that are happening. The other thing that I wanted to share with you was the Young Uist Voices series. So basically the task there was to collect voice memos from our local young residents. Under 40 was what was classed as young in this project, and we'd sent individuals 5 questions, of which they had the choice to answer as many as possible or as little as possible, and I cut them together and put some music behind them, and they give a really interesting feel. They give a really they paint quite an honest picture of some of the issues that people feel and what they love, what they want to work on, what could be better in the islands. And so I've included a link to that in the Google Drive there, so you can have a listen to the first couple of minutes. I think it's about 7 minutes long, that episode, but if you want to listen to the first 2 minutes to make up this time, then feel free to do so. And there's also some photos of our website and the prototype website, which you should visit as well. Mór an taing agus amidáchas go féich mé dísú. Cheers the rest.
So obviously we did hear a bit of the podcast, and I have to say there's a bit of me wanting to, I hadn't listened to it right to the end, particularly as people started to talk about the housing and some of the issues. I was thinking we're getting to all the really interesting bits, because actually it is understanding those challenges, because that is kind of what communities need to consider, I think, in terms of attracting people back, but giving them opportunities to stay as well. That's so important, I think, for communities. So I'll see if we can share that link out to the podcast, and certainly the website. I'll try and put it in the chat function, because I think there's so much we can learn from listening to those voices. So it's a shame Alana wasn't able to join us firsthand, but I hope that gives a bit of a sense of the work she was doing. And I'm going to hand over straight away now to Thomas. Obviously Alana talked about kind of CoDel a little bit, and I know certainly Thomas, on our visits out to Uist, you've done a lot to kind of bring people for us to meet and to really showcase and show what is happening in Uist, and a lot of that has been centred around kind of particularly, I think, young people and looking at the future of the island and attracting people back. So I'm going to hand straight over to you now, and I think you're going to talk us through some of that sense of ambition moving forwards as well for the area. So over to you.
Thank you very much, Naomi. I'm just going to share a couple of images from the platform Uist Beò that Alana was mentioning, giving a sort of vibrant look, a dynamic look, but also from the podcasts. And I do that quite deliberately. I'll stop sharing this and then share something else here. And I'm just going to I'm going to scroll through a few of these and let you just read some of the perspectives of young voices. And when we say it's up to the age of 40, that's the young crofters. It's also the European definition, and this was a project done under leader funding. Sorry, I skipped one there. It is in their 20s and 30s that a lot of young people will return or settle. So it's a critical age group for the demographics of islands. And just focusing, say, on those under 25 doesn't really work for us as a community. So that is why we embrace that definition of up to 40, along with young crofters and farmers and so on. Now, what I'm doing here, as you say, Naomi, we need to focus on challenges, and all the social enterprises, community enterprises on Uist have responded to challenges within the community. But it needs to be rooted in a way of living on the assets, the strengths, the skills, the expertise that we have in these islands, and which the young people who are settling here or returning here, or many staying here as well, are really tapping into and giving our communities new dynamism. because we have this narrative that we're an aging community, but actually we're a very, very dynamic, enterprising community. And I'm going to now go back to this and just, I'll try and put that on a slideshow. No, there we are. So there's an image of lots of different social enterprises. There are over 50, from large internationally renowned to small community halls, which provide an absolute critical service. Very vibrant. There's some data there on the right-hand corner, which you can look at in the brochure. These are some of the words, and the only reason I just throw these out is that it's much more than just delivering some services, however critical, and creating some jobs. There are all kinds of things that community enterprise is doing for us as a community. And it's almost as though community enterprise, social enterprise is effectively a way of life for us here. And all of those, whether it's community wealth building, as we've been doing for the last 40 years, whether it's developing a more circular economy, creating the community networks that saw us through COVID, whether it's influencing advocacy, campaigning, trying to shift policy, whatever it is, community enterprises are playing a critical role in that. Now, I'm not going to present this as, these are just images from the brochure, but these are the 4 priorities that we identified as a sector on the basis of receiving this award as a social enterprise place. The first is the climate emergency, and you can see set out is all the things we want to achieve. The one thing I'm going to highlight here is simply that we want to build on the inherited knowledge, intuitive understanding about land and sea that exists already in these islands and goes back many, many generations. We want to build on the rich biodiversity that is already here thanks to our low impact lifestyles of crofting and so on. And we want to build on the many extensive activities, expertise, whether it's local food production, recycling, energy generation, resource use that we have on the islands. And again, it's changing this perspective that somehow we're very needy, backward, and that actually we have lots of expertise and knowledge and experience to address some of the critical issues that now confront us. The second is around young people. I'm not sure I need to say anything more about that. You've seen several young people present at this session, and obviously they are the future for our islands, and that was clearly an appropriate priority to include. The third one is around health and well-being. And again, it sets out a lot of the work that's already been done and a lot of the ambitions that we have. And again, just to keep it practical, we're very pleased that one of the younger leaders in our community who's been working in all kinds of different capacities is now wanting to focus on a new initiative called Compassionate Uist to develop that. And it will seek to develop greater services that can contribute to health and well-being, but also really embed inclusion as a way of life within the community sector and within our island communities generally. So it's very, and again, very good to see a younger leader come forward and say that's what they want to do. And finally, building on what Shona has already presented, building on what Alana is also, a fluent Gaelic speaker who grew up here, Gaelic language and culture, which is so critical to our identity, but is also a resource of value to the rest of the world. We're the closest we get to Indigenous community in Britain. And, there's a real challenge around Gaelic. And so this aspiration to establish protected recognition emerged from some of the young people that contributed to these priorities. That is a potential way forward to ensure that Gaelic not just survives, but also thrives. I'm going to just add one last point from the brochure. So it is clear from all the presentations that community enterprises are so existential and rooted in our island way of life, so much expertise and knowledge and assets and so on. And I think what is really important, as this is a national event, is also to stress that we want to engage in equal partnership, and equal is really important, with agencies, mainland-based organisation networks, to deliver the very best for our communities. And that equal partnership is really important. We're not here to have initiatives parachuted in. You can see that we have real leadership, real ambition, and we want to build on that. We know where we need to go. We don't always have the resources, so we need that support. And we also have much to share in both directions, to learn from outside, but also to share learning to those outside. And so very much a call based on our ambitions, our skills, to work in equal partnerships, to develop our island communities to meet the challenges that we face. I think I'm going to, in the interest of time, just leave it at that. Naomi, thank you ever so much. I will put the links to the podcasts and where you can get insight into Uist Beò onto the chat just now. Back to you, Naomi. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think I've put a link into the brochure actually, because I mean we've heard from 4 organisations today, but there is a wealth of activity going on in Uist, and it really is a thriving community. And I think that sense of what Thomas was saying about social enterprises at the heart of the community in Uist is really important, and comes through so strongly in the brochure, both in terms of the historic sense, but also the new initiatives that are happening. And it was great to hear you just talking about Compassionate Uist as well. So, you know, there's a lot happening, but there's always still more and more opportunities, I think, for social enterprise moving forwards. So I'm going to just see if anyone's got any questions they want to put in the chat. I know people are commenting about just been really inspired, and I'm just going to read out the comment I think that Clive has put in. So the history of the Social Enterprise Places programme is that it actually started as an initiative in the UK to try and highlight where social enterprise was having an impact. And because we know that Scotland has some phenomenal social enterprise places, we wanted to make sure that we had some really good focus on our enterprises here, and that's hence I guess what's led us to today's webinar. So Clive, I know, speaks from the heart when he talks about social enterprises being really at the heart of communities. So, you know, a great exemplar of social enterprise, loves the focus, loves the entrepreneurialism, the female empowerment that's come through, and that sense of young people. So I think what's really come out of today's session has been something that's really thriving, and I think that's really exciting to see what happens next. So I just wanted to see if there's, I know there's some various links just being put in the chat. If there's any questions, now's your time to post them. And just while I'm waiting for any of that, just a little bit, obviously, we're always up for promoting more social enterprise places. It's probably not a surprise to the community in Uist to know that the next brochure that we're working on is in Lewis. So again, a different community. I think we have to recognise the differences as well as the similarities. Far too often I think we can just put island communities together as a group, and actually they're very distinct in their personalities as well. I think we have to recognise that, but we're going to be doing that for Uist next. But we're really up for promoting more areas where social enterprise is really making a difference to communities, whether that's parts of cities, other island communities, rural communities. So if you're listening to this today from another area and you're really keen to come, God, we've got so much going on, we'd love to talk about what's going on here as well, then do drop us a line at Social Enterprise Scotland, and we'll be in touch in terms of how we might be able to work with you to promote your area. So I don't think any questions have come in, so I'm going to just ask just if there's any just final reflections from Shona and Abigail. Unfortunately, I think Chris had to just drop off just at the end of the session. Are there any just final reflections from yourself, Shona first, and then Abigail, because that's where I want the final voices to come from.
Oh, well, I'm not too sure, but it's just always good. It's just always good when you can hear from the others as well. And I think that's what this brochure, being able to actually see everyone all together, you know, everyone's can be busy doing their own things, and we all work to quite high aims and priorities, and it's been really good to kind of have that brought together and have the chance to hear about the great things that other people are doing. We don't always get to do that, so I've appreciated that very much.
Thank you, Shona. And Abigail?
Yeah, I would just say the same. It's nice to hear from other places around Uist, and we're quite close together, but it's important to work together as well, and that's something that I think we can really improve on and continue to do so. We've already worked quite well with Tagsa and Ceòlas before, so it'd be great to just continue that movement throughout the year.
Absolutely. Again, that came through so strongly. And there was a phrase that you used in your presentation, Shona, and I thought, what a perfect way to end today's session. So it was, little stones will make a big cairn, but I can't say it in Gaelic, so I thought we could perhaps get the finishing statement to be that, because I think that was a lovely point that you made, and I'd like to hear it again.
Yeah, there's a few different iterations, but this one is Toki Clachan Beka Cairn Mór. Yeah, little stones can make a big cairn. I really like that. That's a favourite.
Yeah, no, I loved it. It for me summed up that sense of communities really working together. So thank you so much. Can visitors go to Uist on a social enterprise safari to see all this fabulous work? Well, I can honestly say I've been fortunate enough to go on a safari led by Thomas around Uist, so I'm sure these things are possible, and I certainly know it's an incredibly inviting community. So we can make these things happen and put people in contact if you want to go and see what's happening. So I'd thoroughly recommend it and can't wait to get back out to the island myself. So thank you so much. Always love hearing about what's going on, and really look forward to hearing about what happens in the future too. So thank you very much for joining us all today.
Happily.